So picking up where I left off in part two of the video, I wanted to at least look at a couple of places where, uh, well, like female sterilization. We'll look at that in just a bit, but male sterilization too here in Canada. But we've had sterilizations going on here in America, and we talk about it being the land of the free and all that other kind of stuff. But governments make mandates on things sometimes, and we'll see how the one-child policy affected China here pretty soon. But I do want to tell you about India real quick, just because it was unique. When Indira Gandhi was prime minister, they could have won over the people with male sterilizations, had they not done it with such draconian means. Financial incentives, for instance, for younger men. It doesn't make sense to, sterilize a man that's already had 12 kids. I mean, he might have another couple more, but they didn't do that. They, stopping them around 2 or 3 kids, 3 or 4, 5 maybe, but to cut off another generation of kids was what she wanted to do, and it was in good interest and good intentions, but it came off badly. And so when you hear within your lifetime, within the next 10 years, that India surpassed China in population, you'll know why they don't trust the government. And you'll also see here in Australia the stolen generations, where they did curtail population growth, but also just snatched kids away from their Aboriginal parents and put them in with white Christian families, trying to save souls. But in the end, an objective outsider observing the situation would see taking, a kid away from good parents just because they don't believe the same things isn't the best thing for the family. So there are lots of these stories around the globe, but I certainly wanted to give you this one since Roe versus Wade and the pill and so much of this has, it pops up in the media and these discussions about things of that nature. Nobody wants to abort children. Nobody. I've never seen anybody hungry to do that. But it happens sometimes. And so, again, I don't force my viewpoints on you. I tell you what I think and feel, and I'll tell you if it's an opinion or a fact. So that said, I'll go ahead and move on. But you can see how diverse this map is with the different methods that they would use. Okay. So let's see if I can get this thing to advance. Okay. So world pattern for youth and the aged. So when we look at significantly younger or older populations, this is from data from 2017, but what do we see? 15 or more percent of people are over 65 years of age in Canada, the United States, and basically every state in Europe, save for Austria and, Moldova. Certainly Australia, Japan, New Zealand, all fall in there. And then what do we have here? All African states. Okay, aside from these that I mentioned down here below. Iraq has been thrown off because of Iraq War I and especially Iraq War II in 2003, ISIS and all that, Islamic State and all that stuff. We're still America's longest war. If you ever get this question on a test, always answer Afghanistan, and you'll be right. We're trying to negotiate with the Taliban, and to get out of this morass, this quagmire that we've been in. But why would they have such younger populations? Because all of society was broken down into war. And there's an ongoing war right now in this country right here. Again, I'm sorry, so sorry about it. I cannot find my pointer, but that's Yemen right there. And so they are in an ongoing war there. And it is actually between the backers in Iran and Saudi Arabia that want that war to happen. But at least trying to explain to you some of the outliers there. Okay. When we look at real problems of youth, there are still countries practicing child marriages. And I've seen it in India, you guys, where they they promote in signs in cities, don't marry your children off, but it doesn't make sense because the people that would be having the children or marry at a young age or so, they're illiterate anyway. They can't read. They need different programs for that. Different approaches to it. These are Yemenis. This picture is actually from National Geographic, and it's showing husbands with their new brides. So I don't mean like Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi, and Kasturba, his wife. They were arranged at a young age together and didn't formalize the marriage till much later. Their parents promised them to each other. So that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a family that's poor with too many kids that can't take care of the mouths, especially the girls, because they favor boys, will sell their children off. And that's what these marriages are here. And there's any number of problems that can result from this, whether it's mentally and physical abuse, but even a child like this having a baby way too soon, fistulas and other problems in birthing and physical ailments come along with this, and it's just clearly not right. So I will forgive cultures for some things and discrepancies between males and females or whatever, as it's been cultured, but not something like this. It doesn't make good medical sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. So that said, I'll move forward and look at population pyramids with you. All right, in brief, the population pyramid is an age-sex pyramid, and on a central axis for this thing, it'll have males on one side, females on the other, and they will be grouped together, obviously by sex on either side, but then by cohorts is what this is called. So the 0 to 4, 5 to 9, and 10 to 14 cohorts all go together to be called the youth cohort. And when we get up to 64 right here, once we get to 65 and above, all of this cohort's called old age. And so this middle cohort is usually the working age people to build wealth and an economy and life for all the young kids who aren't working or all the elderly who can no longer work. And so if we compare, United States is fairly columnar. It is decreasing birth, but we've been able to keep this up through immigration, legal and or otherwise. But immigration has been dropping, if you don't know, over the last several years in America. And moreover, because of globalization, America hasn't been getting as many of the brain gain benefits as we did, say, during the Cold War, when people with education, engineers, doctors, or in underdeveloped countries could take their education, come and work in the States and have a much better life. Now, Indian doctors, for instance, don't have to leave India to have a good life. They've got a developed enough economy. They have gated communities there now, too. They have exclusive this, that, and the other. I've been in malls in Delhi, guys, that beat any mall I've been in here in America. So there are serious pockets of wealth around. But that said, now the immigration we have is a bit different and more nuanced than it used to be. And so, in fact, we actually get some brain drain as people move to other places or choose not to come here. Spain's getting a little top heavy, just like Germany and Japan and some of those stage 5 countries that are losing population as older people die and the younger people aren't there to replace them. If we look at a Sun City in Arizona, this is clearly a retirement area, right? So the few young people that are there are serving older people as they're living out, they're running out the clock. And I never thought I would be one of those persons, but I'm finding now that I've gotten into my 50s and I'm having some troubles and with winters, even though they're not even that cold anymore, I'm going to move south. I see it happening. I really do. Probably a desert too, not say to Florida. It's too humid there for me. But anyway, on the right-hand side, you see Tanzania is in East Africa, and it is pyramidally shaped, the traditional pyramid, which tells you that they're not they're developing but not developed economy. So a high birth rate, and then a country in this stage, guys, of development, really needs to focus on education and healthcare, neonatal care, all kinds of stuff with children. They clearly don't need to be worried about geriatric care, cancer, heart disease, and the like. People don't live long enough to have that. I'm not saying you abandon those people, but to keep these babies alive, to moving into middle age should be the real focus of this for them in their healthcare system. We see unique aspects with China, and we will talk about the one-child policy and the now two-child policy in a bit. But I wanted to show you Oman's real quick, and it would be the same in the United Arab Emirates and some of these other places that have a lot of oil wealth. And a state that takes care of the people. You see lots of immigrants coming there. So this bulge in these countries of the Persian Gulf, these people are Pakistanis and Indians, almost, 90+% of them. They're poor men who work, who couldn't find gainful employment in their own countries, who went to work abroad. And we have that in our country too. We have poor people from Mexico, Central America, Latin America, who come here to build houses. They come here to work in chicken processing plants. That's the way it works, because most Americans don't want to work on a factory floor like that. They don't want to be out in the sun or in the weather, building houses. I've toured processing plants. It would be drudgery. I would have a difficult time doing it. I've also built houses. I've framed houses. I should be more accurate with that. And the people I worked with, I'm telling you, couldn't get a job anywhere else. They had deal with drugs and didn't have driver's license and whatnot. So the only reason they were working there was because they couldn't do any better. I did it just because I wanted to see how to build houses. I didn't get paid that much, but I wanted to learn something. But that said, all the other housing framing crews in the subdivision where I was working, they were all Latino, all of them. And so anyway, so it's just an example of showing you how immigrants would affect a population pyramid. And thus there you see it. As percent of population here too, what do we notice here? Why are females so highly represented, above 52% of the population in Russia and Eastern Europe? Certainly Portugal too, but well, men, there's a whole loads of videos on YouTube you can see about while in Russia, and it's men drunk on vodka doing the craziest things you can't imagine. Now, I'm not saying I didn't do crazy things, too, at some point, but it's just wild watching them wrestle bears, and it's nuts, some of the stuff you see. And but again, the high risk factors, having unprotected sex or having unprotected needles of drugs. They do have problems with tuberculosis and things of this nature. So that would make sense here. As a percent of population here for females in Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates and Oman, this is Oman right here. Maybe that's a little harder to say, other than for preference of boys. Again, this is a traditional sense of things, okay? So we know, there's slightly more, it's not a 50-50 coin flip, slightly more boys than girls are born, but certainly at a younger age, boys just do silly stuff. I mean, I drove too fast, I jumped out of high trees into shallow rivers. I mean, just almost just stupid. It's So I can only be honest here and tell about myself, but hopefully that'll make sense with this map. So wrapping up this part of the lecture, I wanted to show you Alaska, since it wasn't mentioned also in your textbook, and looking at why there might be so many men here in a frontier area. Sometimes men are loners. Sometimes they don't like being around other people. Look at Dick Prenneke, who built a cabin out in the middle of nowhere and lived for 40 years by himself, If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch on Alone in the Wilderness. I think is what the title of it was, off of PBS, and you can see. But one of the things we'd see out here in a place like Alaska is that you would have pipeline construction, big jobs, oil boom on the north of, the North Slope, as they call it, in the northern part around Barrow, Alaska. The bust as men, people coming in and leaving. Same thing for, North Dakota and the Bakken Shale formation of the fracking that happened. You'll see these kinds of sex-specific changes in demography and within the population pyramids. All right, we'll be coming back for lecture 4 very shortly. See you soon. Bye.